Hi guys, it's Lanikia, and I am reviewing The Handmaid's Tale season 11, season 3, episode 12, called Sacrifice. I went way for it, like I couldn't do it for 11 seasons. But anyways, so we start off right where we left off kind of last week with June having the gun in her hand, and so we're gonna see. So we see June has the gun in her hand, and she's going up to. She starts telling us what it sounds like when they're coming for you. So she says you hear the van approach, you hear doors close, you hear footsteps, then you hear the doors open to the house, you hear people talking, then you hear them walking up the pavement. Excuse me, you hear them walking up the stairs, and then they're at the room. And so she points the gun because she's about to take out whoever she thinks is trying to get her for killing Commander Winslow. But it is Eleanor at the door. So Eleanor tells June to, hey, they're downstairs for you. What you doing with that gun? Put it down. Come on downstairs because Beth needs help with sandwiches and the tea and stuff. Beth's going to need help with that. So June puts the gun away and she goes downstairs. So when she's going downstairs, she's trying to figure out who is there. And one of the guardians or the eyes or whatever, the guards comes up and he says, "Blessed be." So she makes her way onto the kitchen. It's in Texas, y'all. It's so hot. But I mean, it's cool on the inside, but still it's hot. So she makes her way, and all of the women, and Beth tells her, "I don't know what you did, but you deserve a medal and everything because she got Billy went ahead and agreed to going ahead and taking the 52, the commander and his wife, and of course Beth as the Martha onto the plane. So he has agreed to get them out. So they're all making the sandwiches and everything, and Sienna comes in and she says, "Oh, they want to go to war with Canada and all that." And so she says, "Who's in there?" And it's the commander. So June is like, "Oh, I'll take the tray." And I'm like, "June, you are bruised up, and how are you going to explain these bruises? Let Sienna take the tray." But June wants to listen and to find out what is going on. That's our June for you. So she wants to listen to find out what's going on. So she tells them she'll take it in or whatever. Okay. So then we see that Lawrence tells June, "Oh, Sienna was busy," and she says, "Yes, sir," because he knows exactly what she's trying to do and everything. So but he doesn't stop her. He doesn't kick her out or anything. He lets her stay. So it's the Commander Calhoun who is of Matthew. That's who the baby went to. And then it's Commander Putnam. He had the whole scandal with Janine. That's who Janine had the baby by. And, was raped by. But so they're there and they're trying to tell Lawrence that they need his help, that he still has pull, like he still has supporters and everything. And he was like, "Y'all want to come to me now? Now that Winslow is missing and Fred is in Canada arrested? Now you want to come to me, but you took away all my high security clearance." And they were like, "We can get that back." And Commander Calhoun is like, "Or do you want to just be stuck here with all your books and everything?" And Putnam was like, "Have some respect, because they need Commander Lawrence." And so he tells him, "I'm sorry, I was with the baby all night in the hospital, and the baby's 3 pounds, the baby's doing better and everything." So then we see that Lawrence tells them, he's going to have to mull it over. So he kicks him out of his house. And as they're leaving, Commander Putnam tells June, "You're probably the only one happy about this." And because June has no idea what's going on. She thought they were there because of Winslow. So then Lawrence tells her that Fred and Serena are in custody in Canada. They were trying to escape to get the baby. And that, but it was an ambush. And that Winslow is missing. So she got away with murder. And Fred and Serena are in prison or jail. So she's having a pretty great morning. And so he leaves the room. And then once he leaves the room, June just starts, she sits down and she starts laughing and crying because, like, she is having a great morning hearing that. One, she's not going to go be hung on the wall like she thought she was. And two, the two people that she despises the most are in prison. So she thinks. But anyways, so June starts. Okay, so June. Okay, so then we see June goes to the market, and she don't got no walking partner because none of the girls want to be her walking partner because they like, sis, too much stuff happened with you, which it is. Like, remember Emily was her walking partner. Who else? Of Matthew, like she's had quite a few walking partners, like gone. So, anyways, of Matthew, who else was it? I can't remember the other ones, y'all. But anyways, so Rita says, okay, so June gets behind the line and she tells Alma that it's going down, like they got the plane and everything they need. And Alma tells her that her son is too far away. And June lets Alma know you have to at least try. And I'm like, June, listen, if this woman say her son is too far away, let that go. Like, stop trying to save everyone. Like, I get it, she wants to save, but stop trying to save everyone because everyone might not be good. So she says, do you trust your Martha? And she says, yes, I trust my Martha and everything. And she says, well, tell your Martha to get a message to where Dylan is, and maybe they can get him out, and he's always going to be your son, you're always going to be his mother and everything. So Alma's pretty much like, okay. So then we see, after that, Rita appears, and Rita nods her head, so June goes over to where Rita is. And when June does that, Rita tells her, you won't believe what happened. And June said, no, I already heard. And she said, can you believe it? And June said, what happened? And she said, the guardian, the eye or whatever, came up to, and they tried to talk to her. And she said she just told them what she knew, which was that Serena was happy and she was real nice to her when she left, and that she was going for the baby. And so when that happened, Rita, June told Rita that, if Serena's doing that, then there's a reason. She's just not, if she's nice, there's a reason that she's being nice. She's just not being nice out of just to be nice or whatever. So then we see where they just talk a little bit, and she tells June that she heard about, like, they're trying to get children out. And June was like, yeah. She was like, are you over there? And she was like, yeah. June didn't say yes, but she kind of rolled her eyes like, yeah, that's me. And Rita was like, you're such a boss now. And she was like, I'm going to help. I'm going to get a kid out, or whatever I can do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to help. And so that was that with Rita. And is anybody else disappointed that they never really got into Rita's story? Like, I would have liked to know more of the background of Rita and how she came to be at Gilead and everything, but they kind of let that go. And I was a little disappointed with Aunt Lydia's story too, because I think like season 1 and season 2, those were things that I really enjoyed or whatever about the flashbacks, finding out more about people. Well, if it was a flashback and it was good, I didn't like flashbacks just a flashback. But anyways, so Fred is in a cell. Fred is in a cell, and Serena comes and visits him. Now, did y'all see what kind of prison they got them in? I'm like, what kind of prison is this? Who gets this type of treatment? This is like a presidential suite or something in a hotel. Well, maybe not that much, but it is a nice, like, hotel looking room, a studio apartment. But anyway, Serena comes and visit Fred, and he's still thinking about her because he still doesn't realize she turned on him. And so she tells him, don't worry about me, you need to think about yourself, I'll be all right. And so when she's telling him I'll be all right, he looks at her, he's like, sorry, what did you do? And so she says, I have to be with my daughter needs me. And he's just like, I pity the child that you'll be the mother of. Like, I pity that child or whatever. And, she's just like, she don't care. She feels bad, I guess, a little bit. But at the end of the day, Serena doesn't care because we've been saying this whole time, the only thing she cared about was getting to her daughter, which is not her daughter, that's the most frustrating thing, that they let Serena have these visitations with the baby that is not hers. You know what I mean? Y'all, for her to get this child, child, I can't even. It's not even her child, but for her to turn Fred in, y'all promised her, like, y'all bargained a baby, is pretty much what you did. I don't know. So, anyways, he starts choking Serena a little bit, but then she gets away and she finally leaves and tells him, I'll pray for you. Think about yourself. Don't think about me. And, because, she's going to be all right. Because she turned you in to be all right. So then we see Eleanor is outside, and you can see she's bothered. She's stressed out about something. So June says, "What's going on?" And she says, Joseph will want me back in the room." So June tells her, "I'll go with you." And so they go back inside the room, and it's Mrs. Putnam, and Mrs. Winslow are there, and Lawrence. They all three of them are sitting on the couch and they're praying. And then when they get done with the prayer, he gets up and he walks Eleanor to a seat, like a chair, so she can sit down, and he stands behind her, and then June just kind of stands. You know how June be standing off to the side. So it's all of them sitting down praying and everything, and they start talking about Mrs. Lawrence starts talking about how the men don't care about Mrs. Winslow, not Lawrence, starts talking about how the men don't care about her fighting her husband. All they care about is waging war and everything. And so she's just like, I guess she's going to Commander Lawrence to try to, to try to get him to help her, because the other commanders, they're using this for politics. That's what they're doing. So she's okay. So then we see where they're talking and everything, and she says, "I'm so worried about my children," and Eleanor says, "Your children." And Commander Lawrence holds, because he's standing behind her, so he grabs her hand, grabs her arm, and everything to try to shut her up. And so then that's when June starts looking at Eleanor like, "Dang, this sis gonna snap." It's like she's about to snap and say something. And so then they start talking more, and June tells Mrs. Winslow, I pray for your husband wherever he is." And because Mrs. Winslow said something about, "You'll pray for him," like she didn't even ask June, she just told June, you pray for him or whatever. And June says, "I'll pray for him and his safety wherever he may be," or something like that, because June knows she killed this man. And so, anyways, they finally get to the part where Mrs. Winslow says, with her 6 children, they'll take them away because she has if they don't find her husband, because she doesn't have a husband or whatever, and they'll split them up. And Eleanor says, "We can take them. We have room." She's talking to Lawrence, and they're having to play this off because she's talking about taking them to Canada. And he's like, "Oh, yes, we do have room in the house. Like, if Mikasa Sukasa, if you need it or whatever." And so Mrs. Winslow is like, "Well, hopefully it won't come to that and everything." And so anyways, that's the end of that scene where they finally ended to get, because they needed to get Eleanor out of there quickly. Um, so, and then Mrs. Putnam says that I came and talked to me like I know anything about Serena and Fred. I didn't have anything. I don't know anything about that. And so then we go and we see Moira and Luke go to they're going to the holdings where they have Serena and Fred being held or whatever. And we see that they are treating them like they are the criminals or whatever. But I guess you have to do that because they didn't, going to see them, they didn't want to make sure that they don't have any weapons or anything that could possibly cause harm to the people that they are needing to try to work against Gilead. So then we see that Tulo goes in to speak to Serena, and you could tell this man is smitten with Serena. He tells her, don't worry about Fred anymore. He's not your concern anymore. She's like, "That's my husband." And he tells her he didn't recognize her in her clothes because she had her hair down. She had on civilian clothes and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, she's being held in prison. And he's like, "You're just being detained," which already lets us know that they're going to let Serena go. With this baby or not, I'm not sure, but that got to be part of the deal. And so then we see where Moira comes in, and the Child Protective Service worker comes in. Her name is Billy. She comes in, and Moira is just like, she's hostile, of course. And Serena's like, she's thanking Moira for coming, and she says, "I'm June's friend," and she tells her, this, like, "Why are you, like, what do you want from this? Like, you held her down as she was being raped by your husband." You know what I mean? She was being raped by your husband, and here you are wanting her child. it baffles me. Like, this doesn't make sense. And then Mora, and so Tulo was just like, that's enough or whatever. And Mora tells him, F you. You know, because it's like you're so smitten with Serena. And so, like, I guess, I don't know what fantasy he got going on over there. But he's just like, trying to get Mora to stop it and leave, and she just keeps going, pretty much telling Serena, you know, your husband raped me and he treated me like I was, so, you know, worse than dirt on the floor, just like a piece of gum that was on his shoe, because he was, you know, using her and everything. And she tells Serena, you're no better. Because Serena tried to have a little attitude, and Mora really started doing all this because Serena had a little attitude when Mora was trying to tell the social worker, what, you know, this is if Nicole cries, this and that. Because Serena was like, I'm sure she'll be all right. Because, you know, in Serena's mind, that is her child, even though, no, it says you didn't adopt this child. You know what I mean? That is not your child. And see, June kept telling Serena that was her child instead of, and she shouldn't have been doing that because she was needing Serena. So she was saying things like that, and she should not have done that because in Serena's mind, that really is her child. So anyway, sorry, my sinus is acting up today. So they finally get Mora to leave, and Serena's in the room, and the woman, Serena's bouncing the baby, and the woman, because the baby gets fussy. And did y'all see the baby look when they? Y'all gotta watch it again if you haven't already. Did y'all see the baby look when when Mora walked out the room? She was like, "Where you going?" But that was cute. But so the woman tells Serena, yeah, well, she's with strangers. That's why she was fussing. And Serena doesn't like to hear that. And then she says, oh, it's okay, mommy's here. And the social worker told her, no, 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 you can't say that, Mrs. Waterford. You'll confuse the baby. Remember all that stuff? When they was telling June she couldn't tell Hannah all that because she was confused. She would confuse the baby and everything. Like, I just don't get it. So then we see, okay, so then Maura leaves. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so then we see that Lawrence is on the phone and he is fussing with someone, and he's telling them you cannot close the border. Of course they can't. He is not telling them the real reason he doesn't want to close because they're trying to get up out of there. But he's like, you cannot close the border or whatever. And they're like, I guess they're trying to tell him, well, we don't want Canada coming over here or whatever, and they don't want more people to try to leave. But anyways, so Eleanor, so June tells him, you have to keep that border open. And he was like, how can I do that? And she was like, figure it out. But you keeping that border open so we can get these kids out of here. And then we see he looks up because they're in his study talking, and he looks up and he's like, where you going, honey? And it's Eleanor, Lord. And she wants to tell everybody about what they're doing and how they could come with them and everything. And she's like, oh, the blonde girl and Hannah and June. June had to little manhandle Eleanor a little bit and shake her up and just be like, no, like, you could not tell anyone. You understand me? You could not tell. And Commander Lawrence was like, watch who you talking to or something. And she was like, June turned on him and she was just telling him, you shouldn't have told her. Like, had you not told her, we wouldn't be having this added issue or whatever. And so then Eleanor finally says, you know what, she's right, Fred, she's right. I can't go around, doing that, telling, I'm sorry. And June tells her it's okay. And they work, they just understand, have an understanding. And then Fred goes to her and he tells her, you're my love and everything's going to be okay. And we can go to Canada and we can start new and we can forget this. And she said, can we really? And I was like, y'all need to go watch. Like, when she was going upstairs, I was like, y'all need to watch her because y'all know she's very fragile. And the fact that she was like, can we really forget all this, that all of this happened? And, y'all need to put her on a watch. Like, just make sure she's okay. But anyways, Fred, okay. So then we go to Fred. And Tulo is in there with Fred, and Fred is not giving up any information. He's pretty much like, I don't care, like, I don't care. And so Tulo realizes it, but he did say, you guys poisoned Serena or whatever. I don't know why he thinks she wouldn't do that when he could clearly tell that she wanted that baby more than she wanted him from the very, like, that's been clear for a very long time. But anyways, Tulo just told Fred, we didn't have to poison her. Like, this was her choice. And I think Tulo really thinks that Serena is good and that she would not be doing this. Like, if they get her out, she would, help. But Serena is about Serena. And she was cool with Gilead until she realized that all this stuff applied to her. Because she didn't realize it was going to apply to her. She thought she was going to be able to still be Serena. That's your fault. But anyways, so Tulo tells Fred that Luke is there to see him. You already knew it was going to be some mess. The way Fred said, send him in. And so Luke goes in with his notebook and he pretty much, and Fred's like, I see you did your homework. He was like, yeah, we came up from the same background. Like good families, religion, nice educate, like they came up from the same background. And he was like, in some kind of way yours got twisted. And Fred is just like, what did you do when the birth rate was plummeting and all of this kind of stuff? Like when all that was going on, what did you do? And Luke had no comeback. And I'm like, you could have told him you were helping the rape by having a baby, like you had a baby or whatever. Like that was your perfect comeback, is that you were able to have a baby, and Fred is not. But anyways, so Luke tells him that he believes, because Fred says you think June is going to come back to you, and he says she will come back, and Fred is like, she might, but she won't be the same. That's not the same June. Gilead's changed her. I've changed her. He was just being a jerk. And before all that, when Luke first came in, he was like, you want some coffee? You want some tea, water, bourbon? They keeping me so well, or something like that. And Luke looks around and he was like, well, dang, I guess they are. Like, what kind of prison is this? Because they are living better. Serena and Fred are living better than Luke and Maura with the baby. They're living better than them. Like, that's crazy. But anyway, so then Luke gets up and attacks Fred because he's ticked off about what Fred just said, and everything. And I'm like, Luke, he baited you into that. Now Fred is gonna probably, how he does, he's probably gonna use that. They're abusing me over here. Look at my face. But anyway, so that's that scene, y'all. So then Mrs. Lawrence June comes in. Y'all know how they always bring her tray. Well, June brings her the tray, and she doesn't answer the door. So June goes inside. And when she goes inside, she notices that Mrs. Lawrence is has overdosed. She's taken a bunch of medication, so she's overdosed. And so June is about to run and get help, right? And then she stops. And I said, June, don't do this. June stops and she starts backing up, backing up. She turns and faces Mrs. Lawrence at the foot of the bed. But she's not really looking at her. She's just thinking. And then she thinks a little bit more, and then she finally walks over to Mrs. Lawrence and she sits down. She kisses her, and you could hear the labored breathing of Mrs. Lawrence. And because she, committed suicide, but she could have probably been saved had June got help. But June doesn't go and get help. She lets her die. And I think the whole time it's a conflict with June, because on one hand, she likes Eleanor, but on another hand, Eleanor is trouble. Like, if they took Eleanor to that hospital where they're not able to watch them, there is no telling what she would have been saying. And so June kisses her, and then she gets up, she gets the tray, sits it on the outside of the door like they had knocked, but Eleanor hadn't answered, and got her tray. She sits it on the outside of the door, and she goes to her bedroom, and she lays down on the bed, and she doesn't go to sleep the whole night. So all you see it's darkness on her face, and then you see the light comes up, so it's morning time now. And so Sienna goes and she knocks on the door, and I guess she realizes why Eleanor didn't get her stuff. And so then she opens the door and everything to check on her, and she starts screaming for Commander Lawrence, and so that's why we found out Eleanor had went ahead and passed away. So then we find that okay, so Mrs. Lawrence, sorry y'all, I'm reading my notes. Okay, so then Tulo buys Serena some pizza, and you could tell he really like. He buys her pizza, brings her something to read, like some kind of, it's an article about religion and the media. He wants her thoughts on it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, get away from here, like with your Christian self. But anyways, so then we go to the scene where the women are cooking. So they're cooking for the funeral, for the, is it called the repast, for Mrs. Lawrence, you know, the after, you know, where everyone goes and eats the gathering for Mrs. Lawrence's funeral. And so Commander Lawrence brings up 2 bottles of her favorite, I guess, wine, and he says they're more in the basement at the bottom, you know, in the basement. So Beth and Sienna goes and gets it, and he tells June it was her favorite wine and everything. And then June tells him a story about Luke and how he was saving it for their anniversary. She tells him a story about Luke and how he shattered a case of wine because he let it freeze on their anniversary. Um, but anyway, so they share more, and then he's feeling guilty because he was like, I knew she was fragile. I should have checked on her. I should have went up there and made sure that she was okay. Excuse me, and everything. And so, you know, he was like, he just feels guilty. And June is like, I should have checked on her too. I'm like, June, stop it. Like, we already know you let the woman die, but don't add to it. So the so it is. I mean, so he just feels guilty about it, and so that's how that pretty much how that scene ends. Oh, and he tells her that they're gonna keep the border open because they didn't want to argue. Like, who's gonna argue with a man mourning his wife? So that's how he was able to keep the border open. So then we see the funeral of Mrs. Lawrence, and the wives and everyone are there, but I don't see all the handmaids. But we do see Aunt Lydia, and June instead of wearing her white, you know, handmaid thing, she's wearing black. And she tells Aunt Lydia, I'm going to go up here, you know, can I check on him, the commander? And Aunt Lydia was like, yes. That's the only time we saw Aunt Lydia the whole episode. And Aunt Lydia says yes. And so June goes to the commander, and she's like, she doesn't get beside him, but she's behind him. And she says, do you want me to leave? You want to be alone? And he doesn't say anything. So she walks up beside him and she folds her arm. And then he turns and he looks at her. And I don't know what the look meant. I don't know if he's realizing what she did to his wife. I don't know if he's just weary and leery of her. I don't know, but he looked at her like, I don't. To me, it felt like he kind of knew what she did, and or whatever. And then June looked at him kind of shaky because, you know, she's feeling a little bit guilty for what she did. But then she puts her head down and her eyes rise, and you realize June is just like, a part of her is just like, I did what I had to do to, you know, so we can survive. I don't, you know, I get she feels bad, but like there's that part of June that just doesn't care because no one and nothing is going to get her in her way of getting these children out. I don't know, y'all. After I watched, because I did this video last night, and it didn't have any sound, so disappointment. So I'm doing this video again today. But after I watched that last night, and with the two of them looking at each other, I had to watch Golden Girls. I was like, "Whoo, I need something funny," because that creeped me out. But anyways, y'all tell me what you think. Next week is the last episode of season 3. Got to sing you a little tune. Don't judge me. But next week is the last episode of season 3. I'm so excited because I hate that it took so long for this show to build up. But it did. It took a long time for it to build up to where it should be, which is right here, getting us all excited and happy about, you know, what's to come with this show. But anyways, y'all tell me what you think. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you next week.